importance to the development and progress of our nation. I bring you the warmest greetings from President Muhammadu Buhari, on whose behalf I'm here today, and whose remarks I have the privilege of presenting to you. The theme of this assembly, quote, imperatives of community policing and the menace of drug abuse, the role of traditional rulers, end of quote, is a particularly pertinent one. The theme speaks of two different but complementary subjects. One, a social problem, and the other, a strategy for combating social problems. But most importantly, the theme suggests, and I believe most perceptively, that traditional rulers have crucial roles to play in both. Societies are held together by a consensus, whether it is implicit or explicit, on certain ideals and values. Most of these values are universal. The sanctity of life, the dignity of labor, personal and corporate integrity, the importance of family, etc. Traditional institutions, as the custodians of these values, embodying the highest and noblest ideals of the people and communities. This is why even where traditional rulers are non-state actors, where they do not have the coercive force of the state's law enforcement machinery, they are nonetheless strong and potent arbiters of accepted morality and social behavior. And this is why the intervention of traditional authority in combating any social problem carries a unique effectiveness and potency. If the traditional institution declares a particular practice as wrong and worthy of condemnation, or affirms it as right and laudable, such messages of prohibition or affirmation go a very long way. Indeed, Your Royal Majesties possess a moral authority that arguably transcends the legitimacy conferred on political leaders by electoral cycles. It is this moral authority that we respectfully urge you to exercise against drug abuse in your domains. It is the combined effect of the corrective and coercive powers of state agencies and actors and the moral authority of the throne that we believe can deal a death blow to this terrible scourge that today destroys the lives of thousands of our young persons. We are, Your Majesties, as you've heard from General Mawa, faced with a major drug abuse and addiction problem. The 2018 National Drug Use Survey indicates, as you've heard, that there are 14.3 million drug users between the ages of 15 and 64. And drug use is most common among those between the ages of 25 and 29 years, which are the peak of productivity in anyone's lifespan. In effect, young Nigerians that should be in the prime of their lives are being ravaged by the plague of substance addiction. In addition, Nigeria's drug use prevalence is almost 3 times above the global prevalence rate. These figures are stark and their implications dire. Substance addiction poses a clear and present danger to public health and public safety. However, I invite you all to consider the complexity of drug abuse as a crime. The diversion of opioid-based medications like tramadol and cough syrups containing codeine from their prescribed medical use to the illicit market has already created an epidemic of substance abuse with a corresponding rise in related mental and neurological ailments of various kinds. High-risk behavior, such as the use of unsterilized needles for injections, could now lead to an increase in the incidence of HIV, hepatitis B and C, and other blood-borne diseases. We are now, tragically, on the onset of a public health emergency. Consequently, drug abuse is as much an illness as it is a crime, and we must address it accordingly by combining the best practices in public health management with common sense criminal justice approaches that emphasize the reformation of young offenders. We must treat the affected, not ostracize them. We must work together to establish valuable prevention and resolution mechanisms, ensuring that young people everywhere are educated on the gravity of the risks involved in drug abuse. In 2018, I inaugurated the Presidential Advisory Committee on the Elimination of Drug Abuse to address this challenge. The committee has concluded its assignment and submitted its report. That committee was headed by General Buba Marwa, as you've heard. In order to effectively implement its recommendations on drug demand reduction, governments at all levels must work together with traditional rulers. But it is perhaps in the functioning of community policing that the collaboration between traditional and state authority is most imperative. The reasons are obvious. First is the surveillance and provision of intelligence. As community leaders, you are much more familiar with your immediate environment than any state law enforcement agent or agencies can aspire to be from their remote perches. As such, the vast network of confidence open to traditional institutions are uniquely positioned to provide government with valuable intelligence that can help detect criminal activity early and prevent or stop it before it escalates. Second is monitoring and maintenance of the community policing structures. By virtue of your positions, Your Majesties will be able to see what works and what does not. And ultimately, because you are largely immune from the upheaval of each 4-year political term, traditional fathers can ensure that these structures of community policing are maintained and improved beyond the terms of the elected national and state leadership. Thirdly is the moderation of the activities of all actors, especially the civilian participants in community policing, to ensure that the community police system does not become oppressive on the people and communities that they are to serve, and that there are no abuses of power or high-handedness in the enforcement of laws. Your Royal Majesties, I thank you for your unrelenting efforts in tackling some of the deepest and most malignant social ills in our societies. And I hope that the discussion here will be fruitful, offering innovative solutions to some of these issues that constitute the theme of this General Assembly and many that are collateral to it. On this note, it is now my very special pleasure and privilege to declare open the 11th General Assembly of the National Council of Traditional Rulers of Nigeria. Thank you. God bless you.
Your Excellency, sir, there is the part of unveiling of the calendar for the National Council of Traditional Rulers.